All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. The injuries are mounting for the Avs, but they're winning, oddly enough. So things are going well in that department. They threw a couple players on LTIR. Are trades on the way? That's a big question in Avalanche land. And two games that we're going to talk about. One that was already played against the Canes, and one that is being played tonight against the St. Louis Blues. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Could trades be on the horizon with the Colorado Avalanche? When players go on LTIR, people seem to think that's the next step. So we'll talk about that and so many other things on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. All right, man. So we got a game to talk about. We'll get to that in the next segment. Very good game the Avalanche played against the Carolina Hurricanes, and we'll be seeing them again this week. But the Avs they're just getting decimated more and more with injuries, and they're playing better, oddly enough, with all these injuries. But now you have Gabe Landeskog, who they have placed on long-term injured reserve, along with Darren Helm, who they placed on LTIR. And we have all the other injuries that we know about with Val Nichushkin, with Sam Girard, Bowen Byram, who we were kind of looking stuff up before we went live here. I guess there's a possibility he comes back to play against St. Louis. We'll find that out now. Curtis McDermott left the Carolina game with an injury. So regular season for the Colorado Avalanche right now. Business as usual.
Yeah, gotta love it. If we didn't have a jersey sponsor already, it should be UC Health.
Or WebMD or something like that. Yeah.
Band-Aid brand.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah. It's kind of like addition with subtraction. Yes, the team is playing good and they're winning games, even though everybody's dropping like flies. Like I even saw some reports of Sampo Ranta being pulled in the third period of that Carolina game. You just don't know. And you can easily just assume everybody's injured. And each night you're just going to have to just deal with the lineup. But you also have to think about who's left, who's not on the list. And that's Cale, Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen. They're going to be logging the minutes and logging the weight of this team. Granted, the game tonight's against St. Louis. It's not the most difficult game on the schedule, but they're an extremely physical team. So you could be adding more names to this list. So it's something you definitely want to keep an eye on.
I mean, any game you play, just because it's such a fast game, obviously, it's a physical game. You could be losing a guy at any point in time. But yeah, as long as those guys, you can't lose any more of the top guys.
Yeah,
you can't. So you have, if you have Cale Makar out there, you have Nathan MacKinnon, you're going to be good on that end, and we saw that against Carolina, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But putting Gabe Landeskog on LTIR, that's a good chunk of money that you have to play with now, especially Darren Helm, which was like a little over $1 million. When this happens, you're opening up cap space to maybe go make a move. But and it's, you don't just do this recklessly.
Yeah.
Because we've seen what happens, Vegas, when you do that. Vegas went out and I think just overextended themselves last year to go trade for Jack Eichel because they just felt like they couldn't contain themselves and they had to. And look what happened. They had to get rid of a lot of guys and some popular guys to make that deal, not only make that deal happen with the trade, but in the offseason, get rid of some guys because they needed to make room for his $10 million salary. So just because you go out and trade for somebody when people are on LTIR, when Landeskog comes back, that money's added to the cap. So it's not just like you can go over. In the playoffs, you can. That's a whole different story. In the regular season, you can't do that. So I don't know. A lot of people are thinking that the Avs go out and make some deal. You're hearing a lot of rumors right now. You're hearing Bo Horvat, who's going to be moved. I don't know if it's going to be now or more closer to the trade deadline. I don't know if it's going to be the Avalanche. You're hearing Jonathan Taves. You're hearing Ryan O'Reilly again. I mean, these guys come with salary cap, and I don't know what the Avalanche would do. I mean, you would have to clear up a lot of money and get rid of guys when Gabe comes back. I don't know. I don't know the logistics of it right now.
And all those, especially 2 of the 3 players you just mentioned there. Jonathan Taves is a shell of Jonathan Taves. Ask any Blackhawks fan. That's not the same Jonathan Taves. And Ryan O'Reilly, I get it. We've been there, done that. But you are trading age. Like you're getting older players. And what good is it to make this kind of risk? They come into Colorado and they are now added to the same injury list after a couple of games. That's what you run the risk of when you're going after these bigger players like Bo Horvat. I mean, yes, that does sound appealing, especially with the numbers he's putting up so far, but still, what if he comes in, sees the injury depleted team, wants to step in there, show out, and then blows a knee?
Yeah, but you can't make moves with that. Be like that's any move ever made. You can't really say like I want to make this move, but I'm afraid he's going to get injured. That just comes with the territory. You
Well,
can't really, you know what I mean?
The LTIR thing is what freaks me out, because if you're bringing in an old, like if you're making a move to bridge the gap until Landeskog comes back, don't go for an aging player. Go somebody that could be a stopgap, could just bridge it until he comes back, because I worry about every time the word trade comes up. It's always somebody who wants one more chance. Bring in one more piece to get that bottom 6 going. We don't need to replace, like, we're winning games. Things are okay as they stand. You need supporting help. You don't need somebody to come in and be the next Landeskog. You need somebody to get that middle 6 and bottom 6 going.
So, I mean, as far as Ryan O'Reilly, so I'll take Ryan O'Reilly and Bo Horvat. And for both of them, the issue, like, Horvat's 27. Okay, fine. So he's in the last year of his deal, and he comes at $5.5 million. He's an unrestricted free agent after this year. Are you going to be able to re-sign it? I mean, this just smells like rental to me. And if you're going to rent somebody for as long as you possibly can. Don't do it at the trade deadline. Get him in. I would get him in now. If you're going to go that route now. So he comes in at $5.5 million. That's okay. I mean, you're gonna have to have either like Vancouver or St. Louis keep some salary. That would help out a ton. And then for Ryan O'Reilly, O'Reilly's only 31 years old. You just feel like he's like 35, 36 years old, but he's only 31, but his cap hit comes in at 7.5. Right. So you're going to have to ask St. Louis to keep a good chunk of money. And they have no cap space as it is. I don't. So O'Reilly, I think maybe is a little bit on the outside looking at Horvat. You could do, but what is Vancouver going to want for him? Because he can put up some numbers and he is looking good. He's the one thing that's looking good on that team. Right, they're turning around a little bit, but the money has to work on a lot of different levels. It has to work for the Avalanche and fitting in their cap, and it has to work when you're going to bring Gabe Landeskog back into the fold. So he's doable if you tell Vancouver like keep half of it, and then what I say was 5.5. Yeah, he's fine. So you're keeping like 2.75 million. Like, okay, fine, I can make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially you mentioned that he's a rental. You are EJ's deal falls off next year. That goes away. Goodbye.
Right. But a lot of that goes towards Nate, right?
The cap is going up.
We think. It's not definite.
Possibly. It's not
right?
Definite. But even with Helm and Landy on the LTIR, are we not sitting with about 6.5?
No, not
6.3?
well, with them on LTIR, like just straight up cap space, the Avs are right up against the cap.
Okay.
They're right up against it. They don't have a lot of wiggle room. So,
is this where you bring in the Sam Girard conversation again?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what a lot of people are going to go down. He's always going to get thrown in no matter what. Every single trade deadline, I feel like for the duration of his time with the Avalanche, he's like the new like JT Compher. Compher always gets brought up.
Oh,
You know
and
what I mean?
JT
Like,
Compher.
yeah.
Retain all that salary. There you
Right.
go. They'll have
So
nothing else to talk about at trade deadline.
he'll get brought up. And just because we brought him up earlier, like Taves, he's 10.5 million. And he's an unrestricted. So all three of those guys are unrestricteds next year. Taves, you are no way, shape, or form paying him that amount of money. So that would kind of be like, I would say, I would use the term blockbuster, not because he is what he's used to be, but because there's going to be probably 3 teams involved in that, and a lot of players and a lot of picks going around if Taves gets moved to the Avalanche, because there's no way they're soaking up all of that money. It's impossible. So it would have to get a second team involved. Both teams retain some salary, and it gets all the way down for the Avalanche. I still don't see how that's happening. Between these 3, like kind of just talking this out with you, I just feel like Bo Horvat's the most likely option if they wanted to go that route. But the thing is, like, the Avs wouldn't be the only player in getting him. There's going to be multiple teams who want to bring him in and maybe are better suited cap wise and maybe capital wise with draft picks and players to pull him in over the Avalanche.
But they don't have Sakic McFarland.
They don't. And that is a big thing that we have that other teams don't. So they can get the work done. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll have to see how this all works out, but it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. All right. Are we back? We're good.
Yep.
We're good.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We'll just have to see how this works out because, like I said, when guys go on LTIR, you kind of just feel like something is on the horizon.
Yeah.
So we shall see. All right. Let's hear from Simply Safe, and then we'll get into the game against the Carolina Hurricanes that was played over the weekend. But first, Simply Safe, if you've thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up, because right now our listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. And this is their biggest offer of the year. You don't have to wait till Black Friday for this to happen. It's happening right now. And like we were always saying, with the holiday season here, and you're getting your deliveries and those nice, neat packages for little Johnny and little Susie, you want them to open up those gifts on Christmas Day. So don't run the risk of them being yanked by the neighborhood Mr. Sullivan coming around, the thief coming around. Yeah, I see you. I know who you are. So if you're an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify that the threat is real, so you get priority police response. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that we at Locked On Avalanche recommend. You get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. There is no safe like Simply Safe.
For Johnny and Susie.
Yes. All right, man. So the Avs with a very nice 4-1 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes over the weekend. The previous games we were talking about, like the depth players were maybe starting to come around, and it's like the top guys were like, don't forget about us, as if you ever could.
Yeah.
But this was the Cale, Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon show. And, once again, like you're depleted. You don't, and that's going to be the kind of talking point for a while right now. Yeah, maybe we're getting Bo Byron back. But you're going to have guys if you're not scoring, fine. Like if the depth players aren't scoring, fine. But just, production wise, in terms of scoring, you can put that aside. You'd love to have guys like, Logan O'Connor stepping up and scoring 2 goals. Everyone, that's fantastic. But how's your defense? Can you keep them off the stat sheet? And at least against a very, very good Carolina Hurricanes team, they did. But I kind of feel like Carolina kind of lost their mental faculties a couple times. They seems like the Avs got in their head. A very physical game overall, but I thought this was a very sound, solid game played by the Avs.
And with all the injury depletions that we were talking about, and we talked about the inability for production and scoring, like on the score sheet, from that bottom 6, you held the Carolina Hurricanes to 0 for 5 on the power play. And that's with a depleted roster. Like, that's a feat. That's a feat. Yeah. When we talk about the penalty kill, that's incredible. We are 1 for 4 on the power play. I get it. That's okay. That's serviceable. We could build on that. But that penalty kill astounded me. 0 for 5. I loved that. And yeah, it was the Cale Makar show. Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko doing what they do, tied for points on the team. You love to see it. You just don't want to see it every night.
You don't want to see what every night? Them carrying the team?
Yes.
I'm okay with them carrying the team because that's what they're built to do. What I don't want is, let me bring up the stats here. Wow, okay. I thought he was going to be approaching a little bit higher than that. Well, you had Devon Taves. I don't want Taves playing 28 minutes a night. I don't want Cale Makar playing 27 minutes a night. You know what I mean? So that's where you get into like, okay, how long can those guys continue to do that before you wear them down? I know they're, in top physical shape, but we're in game 13.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And then when you're in game 75, expect the same thing. You're just going to wear these guys out. I get how, that game you had Curtis McDermott go out. So they're going to log more minutes because you're down a defenseman. That's a much bigger deal than if it was a forward. But for Nathan MacKinnon didn't even play 20 minutes in that game. So yeah, I get what you're saying as far as like, you don't want to rely on them all the time. Those guys are fine doing that. But you would like to see, like we've been saying for a while, you would like to see the depth guys maybe help out the top lines in scoring a little bit more, because you don't want to rely on this each and every night.
Yeah,
although they can do it, even though they can do it.
They absolutely can. I mean, but look at your calendars, everyone. It's November. Like this is where you're trying to build something. You're not trying to lean on the top guys to get you through a night. Like this is last year. This is like the time of the year where Berkey had like flirts with a hat trick, or JT Compher has like a 1 goal, 1 assist. He's going for the Gordie Howe hat trick, or it's like those weird statistical nights that we all look forward to, like LOC, like 2 shorthanded goals. Like it's those weird nights in November. You don't want the big guys having to carry you through a game against Carolina. You want production to help out with that. You want a 1 or 2 goal game from Nate, and then 1 or 2 other goals from the 3rd and 4th line. You don't want to rely on this every night. And if this is the same story going into tonight, where the top performers get us through St. Louis, it's going to make the next game against Carolina in Carolina a little bit more difficult.
Well, that's the thing. It'll make road games difficult.
Yes.
Because if you're relying on, and other teams are seeing like, hey, if we can shut that top line down, and when they're getting last change, being like the home team, like they're going to put their best line out there, and it's just going to be a little bit more difficult for that top line to put pucks in the net. But they can do it. Like I'm not I'm fine with your top guys carrying a team, because that's just kind of what they're supposed to do. It's what they get paid to do.
Sure.
But I agree with what you're saying in the fact of like you want, hey, if you can get your daily or nightly production from your top units, which you're expecting, and then get something, a good shift or 2 from these bottom lines where they put a puck in that, then that's like the added bonuses.
Yep.
And I think that's what every team wants to get. Like you're just going to be that much more difficult to beat. So I think it'll be interesting to see the difference between the home games and the road games when teams have that last change. So but if anybody can put up those numbers night in, night out, is it not these guys? Like they're primed to do this. So
It's time for Lecky to get going, and what better place than against St. Louis?
what do you have? He had an assist the other night. Yeah, he logged a lot of minutes. He had the most minutes for the forwards, almost 22 minutes. So I thought he looked good. You had Sampo Ranta was up there again. Didn't play a ton, but I thought when he was out there, I thought he was noticeable. And he's working hard. He's working hard in the forecheck. So I liked him. Same thing with Alex Newhook. He's skating so hard, but nothing on the stat sheet for it. One of those things where it's just like, are you overworking yourself?
Yeah,
Trying to get that like 2C back. Are you playing a little bit too hard and skating a little bit too fast? I mean, that's kind of what his game is built around. So I don't want to say he's going, he's trying to be a speed demon, because he is. But is his game, is he just overskating a puck every once in a while because he's just trying to be too aggressive? I don't know. Maybe a little bit tough to say right now, but I'd like the way that he's playing.
We need to start calling those games Tyson Jost nights. He had a Tyson Jost night. I remember seeing him out there, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah. No, I liked him. And then you had your boy Pablo Francouz, who needed that. He really needed that game. And the one goal he let in, kind of a tough. He wasn't really going to save that, but that was it. That was the only goal that he let in. I thought he was good. Solid game from him. No complaints by me for him in that game.
Yeah, it was a good game. They kept the shots to a minimum on both sides. I don't think either team hit 30 shots. I think it was 28-24, Colorado, Carolina.
20-25, yeah.
Yep, close. Yeah, I knew they didn't touch 30. So a good win for Frankie without getting peppered. So we'll take both.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, didn't it have the feel of like, this is like a brutal game. These teams are like, there was some, like, Mikko had a crazy play where he checked somebody and then just got the puck, just leveled this guy, nailed him. You were concerned that he like really injured the guy. He did get up, but then he went back and played the puck and shielded another defender off of him. And that's when a penalty was called and Makar got his second goal. That's when the wheels start falling off Carolina a little bit. And you're kind of like, oh, man, they're playing a little bit undisciplined right now. And I don't think whoever got the penalty on against Mikko when Makar scored, I think he just wasn't happy that his player got checked. But like, all right, well, deal with that after the play. Like
was that the Martinook charging?
No, that was. Did they call charging on him?
Because I remember it standing out, because I cannot remember the last time I've seen charging called in my life.
It doesn't really happen all that much. I can't remember. No, I think it was. Oh, it was Drury. It was Jack Drury who had a hooking call. So Rantanen checked someone into the boards, and Drury didn't like it. So he kind of just starts roughing up Mikko, but Mikko's bigger than him, and he just like, get off of me, flea. And he had a really nice cross-ice pass to Cale, who buried it. So the penalty was negated. But they just I don't know. Like, I saw, and I've heard that about Carolina, that they play a little bit reckless when you can get in their head and they're not in control, which most of the time they are in control because they're a very good team. But when the Avalanche are kind of up on them and they're battling them and they're being as physical with them, they don't like it. And they kind of will make silly penalties like this. And it hurt them. So
a team taking the personality of their coach.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's what I've heard. That's where it comes from. And oddly enough, like as physical as this game looked when you're watching it, the Hurricanes only had 11 hits and the Avalanche only had 13. Go figure. But this was probably the most bruising game that we've seen this year for both teams. Well, for the Avalanche, I should say. I don't know about
especially if you take McDermott out, it's physical.
Yeah, he only played a minute. So 59 minutes of hockey, of physical hockey without Curtis McDermott is telling me something. So We did do a sound check for this real quickly. I had to go with 9 Inch Nails and the song Hurt, just because it wasn't about the game really. It was more about the Avalanche just piling up the games and minutes on the injured reserve. So I went with 9 Inch Nails Hurt. And what'd you
I
go?
went Loverboy. The kid is hot tonight.
What's their big song? What's Loverboy's big song? God, I have to look it up quick. But they
No,
have
it's a Cale Makar, like it's about time he got back to Cale Makar business and like an off the backboard kind of
that
crazy
was
goal.
nuts. That
Like
was crazy.
it's one of those like, yeah, Cale's back. We
Working
could
for the
roll
weekend.
with this.
Working
Oh,
for, yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
the Chris Farley Chippendale skit. Working for
Yeah.
the weekend. Yeah. And Turn Me Loose is another one that's theirs. I didn't know that was theirs. Yeah.
Oh, the kid is hot tonight is my favorite Loverboy song.
Yeah.
100%.
So yeah, you can go check those out over on our playlist over on Spotify, LOA Soundcheck Volume 2. So follow that. So and then finally tonight, first matchup with the St. Louis Blues. No, did they already? Why do I feel like they played Bennington? I gotta check the schedule. I'm like,
Hold on, I'll look.
just
real
because there's
quick.
been so many games in between, or so many
This
days
is our
in
first
between
time.
games. This is the first one.
It is.
Blues are struggling. So, but they have won 2 in a row, and their last win was against Vegas, believe it or not, who's playing very well. So, is that something that can galvanize them and they can start playing a little bit better? They are a team that has talent, clearly, and if let's just say they are able to beat the Avalanche in regulation, they would have 6 wins to the Avalanche's 8. So it's not like they're that far, but I mean, you look at the standings and they're 7 points back, sure. And they're not playing well, clearly. But they got 2 in a row after I think they lost 8 in a row. I think was that what they had. Bennington's not playing well, but he did have a good game against. I think he was the goalie against Vegas because I remember seeing the stats for that. I want to double check that, but I'm almost positive because they played 2 games in a row. They played against San Jose, which okay, they won that. I don't think anybody really paid much attention, but then they went out and beat Vegas, which is, like I said, a very good team to start the season anyway. I don't know. You're gonna have a good game because it's a division game, but the Avs need to, when you have a team that's kind of reeling like St. Louis is, you need to separate yourself from them even further.
Yeah, and like a broken clock is right twice a day. For Bennington to have a good game, it brings the save percentage up to 895.
Yeah, not good.
Like we were talking about the depth needing to get going. This is the team to do it. This is a team that has a little bit of confidence. The last thing you want is to be the team for St. Louis to find their confidence. Because again, you have the target on your back, defending Stanley Cup champions. If they beat you, they're locked in. Now they're another problem that you have to deal with in the Central. You have to get on top of this because you faced them 4 times this year. This is our first meeting. So you have to get on top of this now because it doesn't get any easier from here.
No, and you just have to expect St. Louis to turn it around somewhat. I just don't know when teams get off to bad starts. I get that. But when you lose like they've been losing, is there something else going on? I don't know. I don't watch them all the time enough to know what that is. But the stats are what they are, and Bennington has not been playing well, and you can get in his head. That's the thing. So if the Avs can do that, get out to an early lead, get into his head again, so he can start swinging sticks at people. That only favors the Avs, but it's a mystery. This is the one team that I did not really think was going to start out this way. You don't really think a team that is up for a playoff spot or should be in a playoff spot is going to start that horrific, but they did, and now they're playing catch up, and they know that they're a good team. So they're going to go out there and be scrappy. I really feel like they're going to be out there and just really test the Avalanche because they know they put themselves in a hole. They're good enough to get out of it. And they're going to need every single point from every single game that they play and that they can muster. So you're going to get a good showing, I think, from the Blues because they're not just going to roll over and die. It's November. If this was, March, maybe it's a little bit different, but there's a long way to go. And I think the Blues are going to be up for it.
And this is the first time we've seen them since we knocked them out of the playoffs. And that was our toughest hurdle in the playoffs. So they don't forget.
Yeah, right. And you heard it from the fans up and down. If the whole Nazem Kadri collision didn't happen, they thought that they had our number. I think the Avalanche were too good for that. But regardless, like that's something that not only in the fan base's mind, but yeah, in the Blues' mind. So they're not happy with how their season ended. So it's a division game. The two teams that are always good against each other, and doesn't matter where they're in the standings. You're going to get a good matchup. So I think you're kind of in for a good one too. So we'll see how it goes. We will be back tomorrow to discuss all of that. So make sure you tune in to Locked On Avalanche as Kyle and I break down whatever happened between the Blues and the Avalanche. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Make sure you comment away on the YouTube channel as always. And we will be back tomorrow to talk about the Blues and Avs and anything else, any other injuries that may have occurred.
I'm day to day.
Oh, you were off LTIR? I thought you were on the LTIR.
Yep.
We took you
But
off.
now
of that.
I'm day to day.
But not you went off of LTIR now day to day. Okay.
Yep.
I'm minute to minute. So we'll see. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you tomorrow.